morning. We are joined by Dr. Angela Dramina. She is lawyer, gender activist, and as well executive director of the ACT Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us, Doc, this morning.
Thank you,
You look bright in that orange.
Well, there's a reason for it, but there's an abuaje after the Dramina.
Okay.
It appears people...
Who took that abuaje away? Please put that abuaje there for me. But, Doc, thank you for drawing my attention. Yeah. Of course, Dr. Angela Dramina Abuaje is executive director of the ACT Foundation. Two things I'm curious about. What's the story behind the orange?
Orange.
And why the ACT Foundation, though? It's something I've been meaning to ask you.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Why the ACT?
It's been there since 1999, so if you don't understand it, I'll have to explain it a little bit. But orange is because we are starting commemoration of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, and orange has become a symbolic color for calling for an end to violence against women and girls. So today I had to do, the only thing is I don't have an orange shoe. I would have put that on as well. The ACT Foundation actually symbolizes the Ark of the Covenant. That was the belief of the people of God, that's Israel, that God was in their midst as a refuge and a strength. Okay, so we provide services, shelter services, we empower women and girls who have been abused. So it's very symbolic for us when we say that God is in our midst as our refuge and our strength, as a shelter and an empowering presence. So that's what I
should have done a good job with my research. I would also be wearing orange, but it's 16 days, and so from tomorrow going, I definitely
It's actually from today.
From today till
10th
the 10th of December. Yes. So I have a lot more days to wear orange for you.
Absolutely.
To also join the campaign. But let's start. We will get into that, of course. But let's start. So much happening in the newspapers. You have the papers in front of you. What has your attention? It could be something in the newspapers or beyond what you're talking about. It is something else in the news that you would love to talk about. Well,
at least I've seen that Speaker Bagman is sounding an alarm on public distrust of ministries, departments, and agencies. And I think that's a very important alarm, especially if we're looking at our state institutions and their capacity to deliver services to our country. It doesn't matter which state institution it is, whether it's the police, and I'm sure we have a lot to say about the police, especially as women, or, you know, those who basically help our political heads in the ministries, departments, and agencies. Often you would hear that the heads, that's the ministers, are often, willing to do the right thing, but sometimes it is actually those that have been employed to help them who sort of trip them sometimes, and then they get into all kinds of troubles. And the Afrobarometer survey is saying that, there's a lot of public distrust for the way in which these agencies and departments run. We need to really talk about the public sector, the civil sector, and see how we can strengthen it. So I'm all for what Speaker Bagman is saying in this particular instance. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll start our conversation from the case in point. Of course, today, every year, 25th of November, we'd have these conversations. But unfortunately, days ahead of today, we've seen so much on social media, domestic violence, gender-based violence, very broad and wide. Yes. Children are not even left out of the cycle, unfortunately. A particular case that a lot of people are interested in. So far, I definitely know that you've been following that particular matter.
Very much.
How it came to the limelight, how the gender ministry is also attending to the issue, the role the police played in it and all of that. Tell me how you feel about it so far.
Well, how can you feel about this? Because I've done this work for so long, nothing surprises me anymore, okay? Because we've seen cases like this in different shapes and forms over the years that we've worked in this sector. The unfortunate thing is that our response systems keep failing us. And it also means that we haven't moved, we haven't progressed in understanding the nature and dynamics of this kind of violence and what we can do to at least minimize it. You see, the best strategies have four legs when you're looking at this area of work. There's the preventive side, then there's the protective side, then there's the provision side, and then there's the prosecution side or the attempt to hold perpetrators accountable, anytime one of these legs is not working, all four will fall flat. But here in Ghana, all four are not working well. Whether we're preventing it through public education, sensitization, letting people understand the criminal nature of these acts and the fact that it can get them into trouble, there isn't much happening. When it comes to protection, the law enforcement, we have good laws, so that's happening. We don't have any problem with our laws. The problem is the enforcement of the laws, the implementation of the several policies that have been, adopted in this area of work. It's not working. It's not working very well. People keep coming up with responses that say that we're failing them when we have to respond to these kinds of issues. And often we would say, oh, but the victims come back and say, do nothing about it. Well, you should understand why they do that. Otherwise, you will not be able to resolve that problem. It is only when the person dies and it becomes homicide, then, we are in full gear about it. Yeah.
Let's take a crash course this morning. We're in class. Take your pen and a paper. Doc is here. Let's talk about what exactly gender-based violence is. What does that mean, particularly?
Okay, so gender-based violence is an umbrella term for when somebody, by their behavior or conduct, harms or seeks to harm another person, simply. Okay, so injuring, damaging, or intimidating them, threatening them with acts simply because of who they are. Okay, so because you're a woman or because you're a man, unfortunately, gender-based violence has a feminine face. Not because men don't suffer it, but the majority who suffer this kind of violence are women and girls. Okay, but men and boys. In Ghana, the data is showing us that 30% of women have suffered one form of gender-based violence or the other, especially physical and sexual, from an intimate partner or a marital partner or cohabiting partner. Okay, yes, it's very high, 1 out of every 3. And 14% of boys, that was the last DFID GOG research, boys and men are also facing similar issues, except that, okay, there are gender dynamics about how men are treated and how women are treated.
Right.
So, and then there are several forms. So domestic violence is an aspect of gender-based violence. Okay, so because this arises within the family setting, with family relationships, the law says, which basically looks at people you live with in a residence, or people you are romantically linked with, or people you're in a relationship with by blood. So when you think of the 3 R's, you know that in Ghana, that's the way we have framed our domestic violence. It's not just between maybe a husband and a wife or a boyfriend and a girlfriend. It's broad. So if I live with my, let's say, my housekeeper at home, and I throw a frying pan at their head, I've committed domestic violence against them. They are not related to me, but we live in the same residence. And if you live with your grandmother and you keep calling her witch and you won't feed her and so on, you are related by blood.
Right.
And so you're committing domestic violence against them.
Okay.
Okay, yes. So
under the gender-based violence,
yes.
you have just mentioned that it has different legs of it. You've mentioned domestic violence and all of that. All the other types that we'll find under it, which one has gained notoriety in this country?
Well, you see, in our experience of work, particularly when it comes to domestic violence, invariably you would find the same person going through physical, economic, sexual, verbal, psychological abuse all at once.
Why?
Because it comes like a package. Okay, usually the oppressor or the dominating partner will not only starve you of resources, they will also beat you up because they think that they have the power to do so and they act with impunity, and will sometimes sexually assault you, as happened in this latest case. As part of the violence, he didn't only beat her up, he had sexually assaulted this woman, okay, according to the allegations, which I believe are very true. Okay, and also there's a lot of insults, demeaning, injuring, insults, very, very, very demeaning and very debilitating, let me put it that way, that are hurled at you all at the same time. So I in my practice, all of them are notorious. there isn't one that isn't. But when you come to the broader rubric of gender-based violence, you'd find that, you know, there's the physical, the psychological, and all of that. But we also have in this country customary forms of gender-based violence. So those that come from our traditions and our some of our cultural practices, like female genital mutilation, witchcraft accusation, which we have a lot in this country, child marriages. You know, these are customary-based forms of, and they are alive and present in our country. There's too much to do.
You talk about 30%. Does this mean that if everybody was reporting the numbers, casually look at the numbers?
Absolutely.
What do you think?
It's still a very underreported crime. You know, people, for reason of thinking, even if I report, nobody will believe me or they won't mind me. Gender-based violence is still underreported, no matter the numbers you see. And it's not just a Ghanaian problem, it's a global problem. Okay, so if everybody was reporting, we'll be in big trouble. And I'm sure that even when you look at the police reports, the data and the statistics, you would find that the alarming numbers you see are only a small fraction of the actual cases that are actually happening in the country. Only a small fraction. And if you look at when the case is reported to the time when it's prosecuted, you would also see huge gaps.
Okay, which is where I'm just coming to, that between the time that the cases are reported and this prosecution, where are the gaps and what does the gap look like?
Many things happen if a case is reported. Our laws and policies spell out how these cases can be handled, right from the police, the person who receives the report of such a case. But sometimes right at the beginning, when a victim or a survivor goes to the police, they are given the police medical form to go to the hospital so that they can get treated by a doctor, and the doctor will fill out the medical form, which the police will add to the evidence they are collecting. Because doctors are charging for that treatment and that medical examination, and to fill out the form, in fact, to fill out the form, lots of survivors will stop at that point. They can't afford the 500 cedis, the 800 cedis, the 1,000 cedis, the 300 that's being charged. But the doctors say they have a legal right to charge that fee because it's in some regulation. So for the last how many years, we've been talking about making this a policy issue so that it comes under NHIA or putting money into the domestic violence fund so that it can take care of these. So lots of cases will stop at the point. If they don't come through an agency that helps them to pay, they won't go back. So the police can't even continue. Then there's the part for those who even want to continue and the pressure that comes from society. We've had so many cases where, you know, mother-in-law will come and beg, pastors are called, even, you know, big people to go and put pressure on the victim to not to continue. And these are so real and current, and often the victims bow under the pressure.
Do you think that's the campaign that you have been raising year in, year out? Do you see any improvement? Do you see the numbers coming down? Or the campaign is actually encouraging more women or those who suffer most to speak up?
I think that the education so far has enabled people to speak up when they are violated. The only thing is that it's hard to track the numbers because we have to keep up with, you know, research, collecting data on prevalence and incidence of violence. We have to keep up every year. The Statistical Service does a bit of that, but we need more academic institutions to get more and more into this area because sometimes the numbers are shocking. Like Ghana loses almost $119 million each year from public health costs. You know, ISE actually puts figures to the kind of violence that is going on against girls and women, and you'll be shocked at the millions of dollars that Ghana is losing.
That's interesting because these people are not able to function properly.
Absolutely. So time lost at work, you know, going to hospital, getting treated. They actually did the research, and the figures are shocking.
Okay, let me just introduce my other panelists. Ms. Irabina Jones is Program Manager, the ACT Foundation, and as well Mrs. Ifa Dazi is Coordinator, Leadership and Management Team, the ACT Foundation. So we have a tall ACT Foundation in studio this morning. I'll go back to Doug a little later, but let me come to you. The entire fight, or the whole fight against gender-based violence, I'd come to you, Irabina. Tell me what it means to you, first of all, before we go into a lot Doug has been saying. What does the fight mean to you?
Safety, it means protection, it means getting to a place where women they are giving a voice to be able to speak up for their rights, because they are humans and they are also entitled to rights. So it's giving them a voice to be able to speak up for themselves, stand for who they are, fight for their dignity, as well as their children, because sometimes you go in there, you see that the violence is not occurring just against the woman, but also their children as well. So it's all of us joining hands together to push the agenda that, we are human beings, we deserve our dignity, we deserve to be recognized as such, as women, as humans, and so treat us right. Yeah.
It's pretty simple as that. I don't think it's difficult to ask. Just treat a person right. Right. If in this fight so far, what has been the most challenging? Do the victims make it difficult to fight, or it's just the whole system, the architecture of our system, from legal, whatever it is, does it make the fight any difficult?
So I would say the fight has been, the most difficult part has been the system that we are dealing with.
Okay.
Because the ACT Foundation has been in existence for 26 years. So over the course of the 26 years, there's a lot we've seen. So it shouldn't be that difficult, because we've seen most of the things that are happening. We've worked with the people for a long time, but the system is not changing. So even if you bring the persons in, the legal support you're supposed to give them, the police who are supposed to be taking care of them, and all those things sometimes do not work.
Okay.
As Dr. Angela Dwamnabwaji said, the very people who are supposed to protect them sometimes laugh at them. They don't listen to them, so it then poses problems for even us who've worked with them for so long. It makes it very difficult, and it breaks our hearts.
Okay, we'll try and bring the cases home. When I come back to you after I've gone to Doug, one of the things I want you to share with me is one of the stories that have lived with you. We don't have to mention names, but one of the stories that have lived with you that shapes your fight every day, shapes the conversation every day. But Doug, let's talk about the type of violence linked to cultural norms, where you dare think that we can normalize it because it is the cultural norm. Years ago, when I was part of a foundation that was championing maternal health and maternal mortality, one of the things that we discovered up north would be that if you are a young woman and you're pregnant for your husband and you're in labor and it is painful, it is believed that you may have cheated on your husband. And that's why you're in pain. So instead of being rushed to the hospital, they deliver you off the baby at home. And most of them die if you look at the numbers. At the time, around 2012, 2013, the numbers were spikingly high. But this is under cultural norms and all of that. I can't take violence out of this. But how much of these violence is linked to cultural norms and for us to normalize it?
Quite a bit. I mentioned the existence of female genital mutilation, witchcraft accusations, child marriages, mostly girls, customary servitude, again, that's against girls, and a lot of these kinds of maternally linked cultural norms. That's a whole basket by itself. Apart from taking the relationship-related, violence, a whole basket of issues that Ghana has to deal with, and deal with very decisively. A lot of it comes from what a particular ethnic group or particular people, clan or so on, believe about the status of women and their role and position in their particular societies. I remember I was shocked to discover, for example, that there are some communities in Ghana where when a woman's husband dies, she has to marry one of the males in the same family after that. But you know, that's not even too bad because they're trying to protect the woman. That's the understanding. But the method of choosing who would marry her is that they put her in a dark room, and the men that are, you know, capable of marrying this person are let into the room, and they struggle over her. So the one who manages to pin her down and has sex with her, is the one who is selected. In this country, in this century, in this decade, we have some of these things going on. And so, I mean, what do we do with this? We need to be more progressive when it comes to our approaches to violence like this, because you have to deal with the mind. You have to deal with what we believe.
Does it look like people can understand when they have lived in a certain culture for long years, when they were born into it, they've lived it,
yes,
and they can tell you that it worked for their parents, their forefathers? And
yes, but then look at the numbers, you know, the change in numbers when the campaigns about girl child education, female genital mutilation, and so when the campaigns go down, it goes back. Okay. So, yes, people can change. People do change. Sometimes traditional leaders are educated. There was a very old traditional leader that once we were up north working, we went to visit him, and he said that as long as he remains the chief of that town, no one will commit female genital mutilation in that place. It was a large traditional area. It was just the strength of one old man, and nobody was doing that in that particular area. In other communities attached, it was going on. So how did he get this educated to know that I wouldn't let women die through female genital mutilation? And by the strength of who he was and what he did. So these things do happen. I remember another community that we got into contact with where we got to understand that the girls had come in the community, had come to understand through education that nobody can marry them off at an early age.
Right.
So if they heard anything, if you hear something, say something.
Say something.
If you see something, yes. If they hear that somebody is planning to marry their daughter off, the girls will band together, okay? And they will go and contact, you know, the local police or whatever it is to tell them that this is what is going to happen. Those girls manage to stop child marriages in their community by themselves, by their own actions. It takes
just a will.
The will, and understanding why this is killing us, and saying we want to change it.
Okay. If you want to share with me one of these stories that has lived with you, that has shaped you, because of course, to be part of the foundation and to want to also fight it, you must have your personal principles, your values. And tell me how some of the stories have shaped your personal principles and your values to journey on through this fight.
Okay, so one of the stories that have lived with us, so most of us or all of us, I would say, is a lady who was sexually abused by her dad over several years, from when she was like young into teenagehood. And because of that, her schoolwork went down. She wasn't performing as well. Very intelligent young lady. She wasn't performing well, and her health, you know, wise as well. She was getting depressed and all that. And because she had been threatened that she shouldn't talk about it, she was keeping it all inside. She didn't have anybody to confide in because she thought something would happen to her. And this person is somebody she was still living with. So she got the courage. I think it became too much. She got pregnant and then told her mate about it, who then confided in her teacher. And then her teacher then called the law enforcement officers, who then came and arrested the dad who was doing that. Yes. And because of that, the whole family just rejected her. They didn't want anything to do with her because they thought that she had disgraced them. What she did was not right. She should have preserved the dignity of the family. So after rejecting her, she didn't have anywhere to go. She was brought to the Ark, and she stayed with the Ark for so many years. Were the ones who were able to take her through school, train her, and at the end of the day, she has a family now.
Oh, wow.
That's over. She stayed with us for a very, very long time.
I have good
Yes.
stories.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, see, I have good stories. Wow.
That's one of the stories that keep, and she's now an advocate. She now speaks for.
Now it will live
other
with me
people.
too forever.
Yeah.
Rabna, what
And I
about
was the
you?
mother of the bride.
Of course you will be. Of course you will be. Rabna, what about you?
So I don't know if there's one particular story that has stayed with me because the cases that we handle, a lot of the stories do stay with us. But then there's one particular one that was so harrowing. She was a teenager who was raped by somebody in the community. She was defiled by someone who is in the community because she was below 16 at that time. And she reported to her family. Her family got to know about it, and their response was to beat her with a metal rod till she was crippled. So she was brought to us in a wheelchair.
Wow.
And she was very malnourished. I think at that time, we weren't so sure she may be able to survive even. So she was taken through therapy and fed with, she was put on special diets and everything because her situation was quite dire. And apparently she's doing well. She's in school, she's been able to recover, and she's really thriving. And there's another one too, that was a trafficking case. A little girl, she was brought from one of our sister countries into Ghana to work as a domestic help. So a neighbor kept hearing the cries of her daughter, let me call it like that, because when she was brought to us, there was no part of her body that wasn't covered in scars. She had iron burn marks.
Wow.
Yeah. She had iron burn marks. Her eyes were bloodshot. She had just one dress. We took off the dress and we washed. We just put it in water, and the water turned black. That was the only, she had stayed with them for like almost a year, and that was the only dress that she had worn from the very start of the stay with them till the time that she was rescued. And then currently, she's also thriving.
Okay.
She's been reunited with her family. The reunification videos were so beautiful. Her parents didn't even think that she had survived because for a period of time, they hadn't heard from her.
Oh.
This was such a very, so tiny. And when you look at her age and you look at her stature, she was totally malnourished. If you should hear the details of the story, that it still lives with me.
Ah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that we have to bring other memories, but for all that you're doing, if I could, Doc, I could come and make career behind it. I think you're doing a great job.
Together with my team,
Yes.
just absolutely.
Let's find some solutions. Let's propose some solutions, of course. Before we even go into the solutions, the perpetrators, do we think that we punish them enough to serve as a deterrent at all? And I'll come to you, Doc, because you're very familiar with the laws. Are there enough? Are they punitive enough?
Well, you see, we are very, very focused, or we are very mindful of the healing process of the clients, the survivors who come to us, because sometimes the justice system fails us, okay? Sometimes it does well, but sometimes it fails us. Sometimes it's not even about the kind of punishment, because the Domestic Violence Act makes all those acts that are described under it misdemeanors. You can go in for more than 2 years. Why? Because it's presumed that these are not aggravated kinds of assaults. So it's 2 years and below.
Okay.
But it also makes it clear that where there are aggravated kinds of acts, you need to bring it under the Criminal Offences Act. Okay? And so I was quite concerned when I saw the first publication from the police saying in the recent case, the man had been charged under I'm sure they were still investigating, so I can give it to them. Okay, under the Domestic Violence Act for physical assault and so on. No. You can't do this under the Domestic Violence Act. The kinds of assaults that this woman has gone through, the sexual assault, the damage to her body, the injuries cannot be a Domestic Violence Act charge or charges. So that needs to change. You can charge from both ends if you like. Combine, make it a combo. But you can't bring it under misdemeanors if you look at the impact of what the woman has suffered. So it's important for, again, police and prosecutors. They know the law. I mean, I'm not the one to lecture them on this, but I'm just drawing their attention to it because this morning we have issued a statement to commemorate the 16 days of activism. And even though we didn't directly talk about this case, we asked the government of Ghana through the Ministry of Gender and the Ministry of Interior and some other agencies to step up their act, to really, really step up there. We can't be transferring teachers who are sexually assaulting their wards. We can't do that anymore. So we called upon the GES to expel such people when they are found. We can't have a situation where women and girls and other victims will have to drop the cases because they can't pay for the 300 Ghana cedis that the doctors are asking for filling out the medical forms.
Okay.
We can't continue with those things. They've been on the books for too long. And it's frustrating those of us who work in this field.
I totally understand you, though.
Yeah.
I totally understand. So, I mean, as part of finding some solutions, I see that you have created a series, and on Thursday, we have one of them. One of those installations, Educate Her series, Surviving and Healing from a Toxic Relationship. I think that you cannot say this enough. And let me start with you because you're the coordinator. Let's talk about this particular one. How are people not able to see toxic relationships? I feel like if it is a blood tonic, I'll buy it for them to just, or a pill or something for you to see. But it must be difficult then, because I see that you have a whole lineup that we're going to talk about. Tell me about this particular one. All
right. So this webinar happening on Thursday coming is by the Deborah Institute, which is an arm of the ACT Foundation that deals with the empowerment of young people and talking about things that nobody really wants to talk about. So this one that is coming up is on toxic relationships, how to survive it. And the first of it is talking about how not to get into it, or the red flags, which is what you're talking about.
Yes.
So one of the things is ignorance. Some people just don't know it, just can't see it. Now, one of the things I would say that I'm sure you'll be surprised about is that those who grew up with parents who were abused, like sons or daughters who saw their mothers being beaten by their fathers and all the things that are done to these people, grow up to do the same thing to their wives. And those who are women also grow up and marry people who do that to them. Because you would think that, seeing that something so painful being happened to your parent is something that should deter you. You'll be on the lookout like, hey, I don't want to get into or be with anybody like that. But they end up continue that same pattern. Why? Is the question that you ask.
Hey, we have to find some answers to this question. If your wife is asking me why, we need some solutions, we need some answers. Okay, Irabna, so for this particular webinar, who must attend? Who should be concerned about this?
Yeah, so like everybody goes through toxic relationships, women, men, and even young people or the youth as well. So this webinar is it's across all sexes. It's across all board. So all men, women, and youth should be concerned. And then to add to what Ifa was saying concerning sometimes why do people get into toxic relationships, sometimes it's so subtle that you're not able to see that this thing that this person is doing is going to affect me emotionally or physically or mentally. And, usually when a relationship, somebody is physically abusive in a relationship, it's obviously toxic. But then when the person is telling you, is trying to control even what you wear, how then are you able to determine or know that I'm entering into a toxic relationship? Because it wouldn't click. Yeah. It's when you get in there that it becomes consistent. Don't wear this. I don't like this, your friend. Don't do that. Sometimes they may pass certain comments. So there are some subtleties in there that people are not able to really point out. So that's why sometimes people get into such situations and endure for a period of time before they're able to see that, okay, this thing has taken a real big toll on me. So we should all come on board, men, women. Sometimes we get calls from men and they are telling me, I'm in a relationship with this particular person and this person has put so much pressure on me to financially provide. So it's like, it's really taking an emotional toll on me. So everybody should just come on board. I mean, like, there's so much to learn for concerning this particular webinar.
If you must pay just 100 Ghana cedis to learn to know red flags, honestly, I think you do yourself some good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Doug, let's talk about a bit where is a balance, where they say you're not an island, you live in a society. I mean, in the past, when you're walking in the community, somebody could correct you that what you're wearing is not good. What you just did is not right. You must at least fit in society. How, and I'm taking a cue from Irab now, because how then do you know that this person is doing this out of love, or this person is doing this out of the fact that they're hurting you and it is toxic? Is there a genuine line?
I think it comes through learning. You know, we grow up not knowing many things, but you educate yourself. You listen to other people, you listen to your parents and so on, directing you. It all helps, okay? And there are certain things that have not been so clear, you know, until people started studying the patterns of it. And that's why we are asking that, we are saying prevention is better than cure. If you are in a relationship where the person keeps flipping your phone, where have you been? Who were you with? Why did you eat with this person? Why did you sit in that person's car? You may think, oh, Charlie, this is my boy or this is my girl. I mean, she really cares and so on and so forth. But if you shine your eyes, you would also realize there are certain other things that come with it. Disrespect. Sometimes to other people around you. The way they talk to other people. The way they try to make everything center around themselves. Okay? And at a point, you begin to see that this person doesn't even care about my dreams. You know, if I say this is what I'm aspiring to, they'll say, who do you think you are? Things like that. And you might think it's a joke. It's not. Once you see the patterns, then you should know that you must advise yourself. If you're in a relationship and it's already going on, you know, you need to know how to survive it. Okay? You need to know what steps you can take to rectify some of those things if they can be rectified. We are not talking about people breaking up, for example, their marital relationships just because someone is toxic. But what do you do? And how do you survive and heal yourself? And if you happen to find yourself out of it, some people live with it for years. They become depressed, anxious, and, you know, all kinds of mental health situations develop, even physical health. What do you do? How do you heal? After you have been in a place like this where you've been manipulated, stripped of your dignity, you know, you don't even have a sense of yourself anymore. I've met people like that, and it's difficult. In
your learnings and in your findings, what type of women suffer these kind of violence most? Is it the highly empowered, the non-educated, the non-economical people?
That's always an interesting question. It's across board. In fact, I've said this over and over again. Women like you and I, elite, empowered, are the least likely to even report these things. The shame, the embarrassment, you know, they would put on dark glasses, and when they are asked, they'll say they walked into a door.
Wow.
They would stay in the violence for a very long time out of fear, out of shame, embarrassment, you know, the social thing. But the ones that are not so educated, when they get to know that you can't treat me like this, they are ready to take you on. Yeah. So it happens across board. Christians, Muslims, name it. Rich, poor, educated, not so educated. It's a system thing.
What about the perpetrators?
The way we are.
What about the perpetrators?
Perpetrators
what kind of class
also
do they
come
belong?
from all, yes. You know, it doesn't matter whether they are land guards or they are, you know, yes, we know lawyers, we know judges, we know doctors, yes, pastors, you know, so.
Not if we're whispering to me politicians.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
So it also cuts across. You see, it's about how you're socialized to believe that you have someone who is underneath you and you can dominate or control them. It's a power and control thing. Unfortunately, it happens to also have a male face usually.
Okay.
But if a woman starts believing that too, they can become the perpetrator.
Okay. Okay.
You know, that I can actually control you and have power over you, and I can do what I like with you, basically.
Okay. If I'm coming to you for how we can be part of it, I know that it's via Zoom.
Yes.
And so if you can tell us how people who are watching can be part of this. It's a very important topic to discuss this day. Everybody's attention, of course, it took one woman to be beaten in public again for us to now reignite this conversation, which is not the best. We should have this conversation every day. But at least we're lucky that there's some solutions out there. The Egg Foundation is providing an opportunity to be part of a meaningful conversation, to know how to get out of it, or at least take care of how to survive it. And so let me know how we can be part of it. And those who are speaking as well.
Okay.
Rabna, you can help Ifwa when she...
All right. So, as I said, it's on Thursday this week. It's coming off between 3 and 5 o'clock. Our speakers are Mr. Amos Kevin Annan, who's going to be talking about the red flags. And then the second person who's going to be talking is our very own Executive Director, Dr. Angela Dwamna-Boaji, who's going to be talking about the gender dimensions of toxic relationships. And then we have Lady Theresa Riafe Asante, who is going to be talking about how to heal, Mama T, yes, who is going to be talking about how to heal and how to survive it if you are in it, and also how to heal from it. So Ravna will give us the details of how to register and how to make payment. I just want to add that the ACT Foundation, for all these 26 years, we do trainings on how to have a safe workplace. If any organization wants to know how to have a workplace that is safe from sexual harassment and all that, we're able to help with that training. We are all for empowering. So this webinar that we are doing is part of our preventative aspect of it, so that we can prevent people from getting into toxic relationship and being subject to gender-based violence, domestic violence, and all that. So that falls under that aspect. So we encourage everybody who can make it to come in and listen to it.
It's really important because you just might not survive it. So it's better to know the red
flags. We know
right
people
now
who have lost their lives. I mean, in the medical sector where I used to be, we had people who were coming with bruises. And of course, you're a medical person, so mainly you want to look at the bruises, and sometimes the people don't really want to talk about it. It's about safe spaces. If the woman or the person going through it doesn't feel like they have a safe space, they will not talk about it.
Right.
So after we treated the person for many years, and eventually one of the days she was brought in dead. Yes, somebody we'd been treating, because the husband said she fell down a flight of stairs. But we had seen it. She sent videos of herself with all the bruises to friends and stuff. But so people are there. They see it happening. They don't know what to do. So if you are with the ACT Foundation, we have a whole series of trainings that we are going to be doing to tell you even what to do if you're in the workplace, if you're experiencing it, and you as the manager, how to handle it, policies and procedures to have in your workplace to prevent this from happening, all those things. We are for empowering young ladies as well to know what to do to stop this from happening in our society.
Thank you. Now, how can we be part of it?
Yes, so there's a registration link where you click, you can just enter your details, your name, your phone number, every other detail that is indicated there, you just enter it. And then after you're done with the registration, you just go ahead to make payment to as well. So the
process allows you the payments, right?
Yes. So
just 100.
Yeah. So there are two modes of payment, and both of them are mobile money channels to make it easier for people to pay.
So I've been putting the flyer up. I'm certain you've seen it, but if you didn't take the number, here's the number for registration, because of course you need the link, right? So 0243 77 777. So the 7 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 3. So 0243 77 7773. You cannot.
It's on all our social media.
It's on all of the social media. But a special question. So 2 questions. One, personal question. Why do people go back? You'd find people who have been through this webinar, conversations, healing process. You're so certain that they have healed. The next minute, you've seen them back in that same place.
Yes. So why do people stay? Why do people go back?
Second one is that the special question from my control room. In consensus, all the men in the back, they have a question that, what about the women that beat the men?
Yes, same thing. So let me start with the last one. There are men who suffer gender-based violence, in the public space and within their homes. The sad thing is, because we socialize our boys not to cry, they find it very difficult, more difficult than the women, to talk about these things. So we need to, again, think about how we educate our boys and men about these things. And then even when they approach the institutions, sometimes they are laughed at. It's like, oh, your wife is beating you. Things like that. They are laughed at. I know men who have reported sexual harassment to their managers and they have laughed at them and they walked away from the jobs when they didn't have options. So we agree and we know by the data and even by our practice that there are men. I remember a man coming to me one day and his wife was slowly poisoning him.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. So there are men who suffer gender-based violence. It's just that the numbers are not the same as women. Why? Because of the gender dynamics of power. Okay, yes. More men believe they have more power, culturally, social-wise, and so on. So that's why the numbers are like that. But the laws are made for both men and women, boys and girls, and men should be able to also speak about it, end the silence if they are going through it, and seek help as much as possible. Even if the justice system won't work for you, you must choose to heal.
Yeah.
Yes, you must choose to find ways in which you get healing from it, because it can stay on for a very long time. And the thing about it, I'm a pastor, I understand intergenerational stuff. It shows up in the next generations. Yes. Yes. So whether you look at it psychologically or you look at it pastorally, yes, there's an intergenerational thing about it. And it can keep going.
We can dare say some of these reasons allow people to stay. Why
yes,
they go back
yes. And so why do they stay? Why do they come back? I love the person. It's not their fault.
Which is true, right?
Yes. Especially for women, they get into a relationship. Most women, well, I can't speak for all women, but they get into a relationship because they are emotionally attached. So most of them want the violence to stop. It's not the relationship that they want to end.
All right.
So that also comes as part of the psyche. It's not their fault. The devil made them do it. Who will take care of my children? Where will I go? Who will believe me? Sometimes they actually try to seek help, like this woman. Yeah. And the institution will fail them. Some will go to their pastors and say, what have you been doing at home? If you were an obedient wife, you wouldn't be getting this. Some will go to their parents. They will say, but this is marriage. People fight. Okay. But domestic violence, it's not a fight. It's one person dominating another person.
One person dominating another person. Well, I want you to continue this conversation. So make a date with the Deborah Institute of the ACT Foundation, which is actually presenting the Educate Her series, Surviving and Healing from a Toxic Relationship. And of course, we've been telling you this was speaking, Mr. Amos Kevin Annan, of course, you know him. Don't get into a toxic relationship, the red flags. And Dr. Angela Dramina of course, we'll be speaking on the gendered manifestation of toxic relationship. And Lady Theresa Riafe Asante, Surviving in a Toxic Relationship and Healing when it is over. Make a date. It's at 3 p.m. Thursday, 27th day of November. It's pretty simple. All you need is to go on the social media platforms, get every information, get the link, join in. It costs you nothing, just 100 cedis. And listen, protect yourself, save yourself at least. Dr. Angela Dramina Abuaji, thank you so much. I can go and go on with this conversation. I totally love it. Thank you so much for joining us. We're also joined by Ms. Irabina Jones, Program Manager, the ACT Foundation, and Mrs. Ifwa Dazi, Coordinator, Leadership and Management Team, the ACT Foundation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.